This is SSL 199, better known as the Tomb of the Social Sciences by ANTHRO 146. Today, teams are hard at work extracting objects and history from the tomb. We ourselves are the ethnographers, and today we'll be going over some of the different teams at work here.
Motivation has been to flip the classroom, right? And get students engaged in doing stuff. And in this case, it is an attempt to make sense of all of the detritus that has come down from the history of the School of Social Science, give it some order, see what stories we can tell about it, and ultimately to allow students to experience the history that they are themselves living and the torches that they are carrying on.
We're going through the closet with the Professor Virginia Mansto.
Okay, that's awesome. What have you guys found so far?
A lot of audio tapes that we don't know what's on it.
Anything you're considering throwing away or saving?
I think we're gonna be saving most of the things. It's just like a lot of tape, but we don't have anything to play the recording.
Okay. Anything you guys want to sell?
I feel like if anything, we could probably sell this. I think it's supposed to play the cassette tapes that we found.
At the core of this is about pedagogy and trying to give students new ways into issues like heritage and cultural consumption and the forms of consumption that happen at an institutional level and not just at an individual level. Favorite part is just those aha moments, especially when students come across an object that they're like, what the heck was that? And we turn out and like, oh yeah, that was the earliest way that we knew how to get onto the internet. Or wait, guys, this was the way in which we actually gave lectures and told stories by pulling down maps. And whether in the boxes that we've been focusing a lot on this quarter have information that helps tell us stories about many of the material culture items that we are putting together in the heritage display.
What have you found in the box so far?
Just a lot of personal stuff regarding what was his name? Bob Newcomb.
Okay, so he's a recurring character.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just inventorying like different boxes. The one that I'm doing right now just has like letter of recommendations, emails. Now I'm mostly looking for like kind of like sentimental stuff, I guess. So like I saved like some letters that students wrote to teachers. They have like pictures.
Right on.
The other stuff is like kind of just like old homework transcripts, like student files. I just found like this set of pictures that I thought was
cute.
really cool, and it's like I don't know who it belongs to, but like
Oh, these
they're
are cool.
family pictures, and there's more that are like postcards, but they're all to one teacher. So like I'm thinking that this teacher might have had like a lot of influence for UCI. Honestly, I like seeing like how people used to like write to each other back then, because like everyone here, like, you know, they gotta write their email and they gotta handwrite everything and like spell everything out, and like now it's all digital, so like we don't do that anymore. So I really like to see like the difference, especially like these letters are like from the 90s.
Currently, we are sorting through this box. It belongs to a lady named Paula Garb. She was an environmentalist here at UCI, and it's currently just been a lot of inventory, figuring out what we want to pick out what's really important about her story. She did a lot of research on nuclear energy and with regards to Russia, and we want to figure out like how to tell that kind of story of what she did. And we're trying to we have a lot of puzzle pieces, as I've said, and we have a lot of dates, but we don't really have the chronological timeline of like where everything fits. So it's kind of putting that together, figuring out like how we want to tell this story. I'm enjoying it as well. Everyone
Your ballpark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Stuff that has clear dates. Dates are really nice to have so we can situate it. Like importance. We have a lot of plane tickets that show where she's been. We have a lot of like invitations. We found a biography just a little bit ago that we're thinking about using to kind of summarize who she is. And we have newspapers as well from SoCal, and those are really good for situating these historical events, like within like what kind of research she was doing, and then we situate that with like what was going on in SoCal, what was going on in the rest of the world, and it just helps kind of. I feel like everything's important in terms of like something that we want to display, just kind of stuff that is crucial.
Okay.
Crucial stuff to this story, crucial stuff to like her research, crucial stuff that can like be put on a wall and give like someone who doesn't have this kind of context that we're working with, who like doesn't know who she is, hasn't read like her like any of her contributions or anything. How can we tell this story with just like with what we have here.
What's the most memorable item you found thus far?
We have a DIY nuke kit newspaper.
Awesome. What's the least favorite item you found?
We have a lot of invoices for different things. And I think there was a budget sheet somewhere in there. That one's just kind of snooze fest.
Just blah.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you love the most about your job?
Just getting to work with historical documents. I mean, like I said, history major, so this is kind of all right up my alley. Just being able to work with stuff that past people have touched and see like how things were different, how you kind of had to get these invoices on these huge pieces of paper. You had to write your do revisions to like class notes, and you had to do that multiple times. Then you'll see like these little writings in the margins, and just what was going on in the world. Just getting to work with all that's really fun for me.
Totally.
So.
What's the least favorite part of your job?
All of the papers. There's so many papers, and right now we're kind of trying to figure out dates, and it's like this is organized like decently. Like there's a lot of different like categories that we already have, but in terms of like a chronological story or like picking stuff out, it's a lot.
My responsibility is to display the heritage picked out from the class 2024 into a Google shared document so that everyone knows what is over there in the shelves.
Okay, so like cataloging in a way.
First of all, I would catalog its appearance, like is it preserved, how it's preserved. For example, the telephones over there, plastic are yellowing, so I would put that down. If possible, I will plug it in and check out if it's still functioning. I'm more towards the conservative approach because I always see things with values. No matter how they're still functioning or not, they do carry some values and histories about the SOSI department of UCI.
Okay.
This radio transmitter from the US Army.
Okay. What about it is particularly interesting to you?
Because it's from the army. I've never seen anything from the army.
In social science.
Yeah, but in social science, and especially it's probably being presented during classes and lectures.
The thing that you hate the most about your job.
To categorize things.
We hope to make the place a little bit more presentable, a little bit more intriguing for anybody who decides to walk in. We want to set it up so that they naturally sort of fall into the story that we want to craft with everything that we're working. I have tried to conserve as much as possible. I think I'm a little bit more protective in that regard than most of the people I've worked with whatever random things that we find in here, like a lot of the documents I've really wanted to study a lot deeper. I like coming at it from the perspective of like kind of the human story that has been forgotten with all of this junk just lying around. The people who used to hold on to it are no longer around here anymore. Yeah, I think that there's a lot to hold on to. Like I said before, it really just depends on how we want to set up the experience of the tomb itself. And the maps are pretty interesting. I haven't worked with them quite as much, but I think it's just interesting that there are huge maps being stored in here. A lot of them are from a long time ago, so they're outdated a little bit, and it's just interesting. You know, like the really big items, like these things we were just talking about, we don't fully know how they were intended to work, how they were used, but that's part of the fun. You know, it's almost impossible to ignore them. Honestly, I think that for a lot of us, that's keeping track of everything. The documentation, I think, can only go so far, and I think it's a challenge for all of us to, while we're tearing everything down, to like also keep things organized.
Totally, to have them all like cataloged in a spreadsheet and just like physically organized, we would say.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes people will lose things, and it's hard because you have something that you were really interested in that stuck out in your mind, but maybe you put it back into a box and you aren't quite sure where it is anymore. So that's why it's really crucial that we all collaborate, especially on that, if we're collaborating on anything at all.
What are your responsibilities on this project?
I am doing maps and posters, however, it's all maps and no posters.
Yeah. What characteristics of an object do you look for when sorting through materials?
I'm checking if there's mold or water damage.
Okay.
I'm also seeing like what condition it is, if it can be useful, and like when it was printed to see if it's still accurate. I think I'm more inclined to throw things away just because they've been sitting in here for probably over 10 years. If they were needed, they would have been used. We haven't thrown away everything, we've kept a lot, but I feel like we're more likely to throw away something with water damage just to preserve the other maps, even though they've been sitting next to them for so long.
All right. What's the most memorable item you found so far?
My favorite one was this Brazil map we found that had like the ability to write on it with soft chalk. It was actually in really good condition, which was surprising because it was next to a map that was full of mold and water damage. One of us is actually doing our eBay listing on that one.
In the inverse, what's the least favorite item you found?
Probably the giant one full of mold and water damage. It was heavy and gross and smelled bad.
Okay, so it's like one giant sock.
Yes.
We're categorizing the maps, kind of figuring out what they were used for, and maybe potential uses in the future. Which is kind of hard because a lot of these maps are like super dated.
So you're doing a lot of cartographic guesswork in that way.
Yeah. There was one that Tanatuva still existed, so we were like, oh, this is like pre-1940, which was helpful. But we're not that lucky, and our geographic knowledge isn't like perfect.
I see. What's the most memorable item you found?
Ooh, there was a really cool basically map that kind of details Mexican movement and immigration patterns throughout the United States and like how the borders change. These are really dated things, so see, this is so cool.
What's the least favorite item you found?
God, I got a bunch. There's been a couple where we unfurl them and like mold comes outwards.
Oh my
and
god.
You just gotta, in 30 years when I'm dying, I'm like scar tissues all up in my lungs.
You gotta take it on the chin.
I gotta take it on the chin. I gotta rub some dirt in it. Be a man.
All right. And so far, what has been your favorite part of working with students?
The energy, the enthusiasm that they bring, the aha moments that we come across every time they come across an object or piece of equipment that they don't know what possibly it could have been used for. Those are the moments of exploration, right? And that's, part of the branding of archaeology and anthropology is that notion of discovery and realizing, wait, they did things differently in the past? Crazy.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.